Japan's new Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, sparked outrage in Asia and beyond when he recently said that there was no evidence that Japan's army had forced women to work in military brothels during World War II. The acknowledgement of and apologies for the so-called comfort women has been a stumbling block to better relations with Japan's powerful neighbors, China and South Korea. We are joined by Yoshihisa Komori of Japan's daily Sanke Shinbun for a closer look at this hot topic. Komori-san, why did Abe feel he had to make that statement?
Because he has been asserting that the Japanese military, as a matter of policy, never coerced the recruitment of young women in Asia. There have been some isolated cases where soldiers and officers who are defying the order from above forcefully taken away some unfortunate ladies, young ladies to China or Indonesia. But again, there's no proof that the Japanese military as a policy as a whole did such thing.
But the number of women involved, the scale of it, seems to suggest some kind of systematic effort. And the women themselves claim that they were made to do this. They were almost screened by military authorities. So it does seem to have a systemic or institutional aspect to the policy.
Yes, I think Japanese leadership and the people acknowledge that there's a systematic involvement or systematic running of brothels or prostitution, the systematic way. But again, it's based on a voluntary basis. And there were people...
I mean voluntary by the military officers, not by the women.
No, by women. There were. You may be surprised to hear this, but there are lots of newspaper ads and some other commercial advertisement for recruitment for those women. But remind you, though, sadly, the prostitution per se was legal in those days, not just in Japan. And there's between women and the Japanese military, there's a huge sort of business people who were running these brothels for the military, maybe at the request of military. So, yes, military was involved, but military never, as a policy, were coercing those women, and that's the sort of complexity of the issue.
But there are certainly women who claim to have been coerced.
There are a few cases coerced by those merchants of prostitution, and sometimes some whole family was in debt. Instead, their parents decided to pretty much sell. It's a human trafficking of a very saddest form. Those soldiers daughters to prostitution houses in exchange for some money. So in that case, on an individual basis, on the part of women, yes, there's a coercion.
But the military was paying for it just to get at this institutional nature of the sex trade. As I understand it, the soldiers were not paying for the prostitutes.
No,
the military, as an institution, was contracting with the intermediaries, buying the services of these women, and providing them to its soldiers.
No, but each soldier was paying. That's
individual.
That's a whole record. And many of the women, again, I don't want to sound like endorsing those sad, obviously wrong act, but the fact remains, on one hand, that some of the women are making a lot of money. Those are on the record. They are remitting their money home and then to their parents, and some of them are making much more money than the Japanese Prime Minister.
So you're saying that the military, in its official capacity, never paid for these services?
No, they probably paid for the people who are running the prostitution houses.
And the setup. I mean, these were
the sex itself. It's not.
But there was a setup. There were houses in which, on military camps, there were places where this was being done. The military must have been housing these people.
Yes, that's right.
They created the infrastructure.
They created the infrastructure. And for that, the Japanese government and successive prime ministers acknowledged the wrongdoing of the past and apologized.
Why is it that apology, if it was made, seems to be one that has not been accepted or taken as a real apology in either South Korea or China?
So there's a certain element outside Japan that would never seem too willing to accept the Japanese apology. Succession, I mean, all the Japanese prime ministers in the past 14 years, 15 years, individually or collectively apologized. But that's not enough. And so now they say that we have to pass a diet resolution for apology and all that. The hurdle has been raised. But remind you, this is a part of the war effort. And the whole war effort conducted by Japan was punished to death. We paid a price. All those war criminals had been tried and executed. The entire nation of Japan subjected itself to the winners of the victors of the World War II, resulting in a lot of execution and reparation, and the San Francisco Peace Treaty, and all that. So what more can we do? That's our feeling. That's the nitpicking. I think the essence of this issue from Japanese perspective is a double jeopardy, double standards, and tinge of racism. Why do we have to be held responsible for ever and ever for something that our people 2 generations, 3 generations ago did? And we acknowledge that was a wrong thing. We atoned it. We apologized for it. But again, somehow the way we apologized is not enough. Or the way we paid money was not enough. It just comes again and again and again. And look at Japan now. It's a purely democratic, sort of have a lot of faith in the democracy, humanism, and we have been making a very significant contribution to the international humanitarian causes, ODA or other forms. Why do we have to be so attacked and put in the sort of inferior position morally?
You said racism, but the attacks are really coming from South Korea and China. The United States has actually been very quiet on this issue. As an official matter...
Well, look at what's going on in the House of Representatives in the U.S.
No, I mean the executive branch has not been pushing you hard on this. It's China and South Korea that you're facing the most criticism from.
So criticism now coming is from the United States. New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, Boston Globe, they are bashing Japan and Japanese leadership as if there's something wrong in Japanese DNA. None of us was around when this thing happened. A comparison between Germany and Japan, what the Nazi Germany did, just annihilation, premeditated decision made at the top of the national government to annihilate one entire race or ethnic group that had nothing to do with the war. Whereas in Japan, there's no such thing. It's remotely. Everything that Japan has been accused of happened in the battlefield with the parties, warring parties.
You know that it causes problems for Japan in East Asia, particularly with the Chinese and the South Koreans, whatever the merits of the issue. Why did Abe feel, why did the Prime Minister feel he had to do something like this now? Is it, some people claim, some people claim that he has been losing ground in the polls, he needed to shore up his support, and this was a way of throwing an issue to his nationalistic right-wing base?
No, I really have to make the table turn the table around. That Prime Minister Abe only reacted to the bunch of questions raised by Japanese reporters on the resolution that was brought and about to be voted on in the House of Representatives of the United States. So our question is why? Why do they have to bring up this issue now? We haven't said anything about this. We have not either negatively or positively. So only because of this House of Representatives resolution did Abe have to say something. Because the resolution specifically called for unequitable, or something apology, the national apology or something, which Abe said that his predecessors have apologized, so he doesn't need to apologize anymore.
But he also said that the military was not involved in an official capacity.
So official capacity was not that policy. That's pretty much an established fact. You really have to show us, when military at the top of the top level has made a decision or any proof that they are coercing, they are ordering the coerced recruitment of young women.
How does Japan get out of this situation? When Japan tried to get permanent status, a permanent seat in the UN Security Council, it was stunning how little support it had. In all of Asia, the only country that gave it its qualified support was Singapore. So how, and this despite the fact that Japan has given tens of billions of dollars of aid to all these countries. I think it's almost 30 billion to China alone. how does Japan get out of this trap where its image seems tied to what happened during World War II and its reaction and its handling of that past?
The past 50 years or so, I think Japanese attitude, as well as government policy, was to say nothing against any charges. No, just then by showing our democratic nature and humanitarian policy, by policies. But certainly that didn't work. So I think what you may be seeing from now is the Japanese leadership or Japanese people are speaking out. For instance, there's no such thing as a military, the top decision or policy decision to coerce women, even though there are people who say there was. But so now I think I think people more and more to be speaking out and engaged in a dialogue or discussion or debate. I think quietly accepting any charge and then by doing all those good things just doesn't work. So there's a profound disappointment, sadness, resentment on the part of many people in Japan now. You may be seeing a new Japan because this is seriously beginning to erode the Japanese-American alliance, because the kind of people whose pride and other feelings are hurt by this incessant accusation against Japan are the people who are most vigorously supported the alliance based on democracy with the United States or with countries like India or Australia, Britain or France. But somehow they take something, because there's even behind this current move against Japan, there's a Chinese move, because Congressman Mike Honda of California has been receiving a huge amount of political donation from Chinese activists who are associated with the Chinese organization. And it's interesting, there's very little support or activists from Korea. So I see this as a sort of diplomatic maneuver on the part of certain countries to keep Japan in an emasculated way, or inferior way, just as if portraying Japan as if something is a country or the people who are sort of genetically wrong or something, inferior. So
on that's
how strongly I feel.
Well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Komori-san. Thank you.